have a budget impasse. And in fact, when the COVID-19 hit, we were in the process of trying to streamline our HCV department. Right now, we're down about 5 or 7 FTEs for streamlining purposes as we go more virtual in how our operations. But because many folks have lost their jobs, we're just looking at maintaining those positions so that we can hire people and provide them jobs to be employed here. And in addition, we received an additional $3.7 million in supplemental funding, which we will break down, that even with the eligible activities, we're struggling to spend it all and budget it out. So the Housing Authority is in pretty good financial shape. I believe we have nearly close to about $7 million in reserves. About that broken out among different departments. So right now I have no financial concerns unless we hear anything different from HUD and the federal government and our congressional delegation, and I have not heard any, Mr. Weekly.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I think, Mr. Chair, again, through you to Mr. Williams, I think that is really good news to hear and something important to put on the record. That we are not facing any type of crisis like that. Are we at all just kind of communicating with one just to kind of make sure that we stay on radar and keep our ear to the grindstone? Because what I'd hate to see happen is that as we're celebrating, a number of these people who are being promoted, deservedly so, I just hate to hear some drastic cuts coming down the pike, in which you're always hearing some rumbles, and you never know what's true until it finally happens. But do we have a contingency plan in place in the event something drastic happens?
So no, I don't believe we have a contingency plan. However, we have enough reserves to operate if we didn't receive any federal funding for 6 months to continue to operate. However, to address your point succinctly, Commissioner Sigerboom has graciously allowed us to have recurring meetings with Kevin Schiller, I believe, at the county as we work with our congressional delegations. One of the things that I'm focused on in the background is getting disaster housing choice voucher programs for our agency, particularly because of our high unemployment in the state. It's a rarely used voucher program that was used during Katrina for the state of Louisiana, and it's something we're looking at that I would like to get that will double our income in the HCV program, but also provide an additional 4,000 vouchers for families in Southern Nevada for 2 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the response. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Absolutely, Commissioner Weekly. So I think we're really in a very fortunate position from an agency standpoint in terms of our financial footing, which is amazing because there is a tremendous need in our community considering the loss of employment and the economic impacts that we're facing, to have our housing services, affordable housing services, available to as many people as possible. And I just would also add, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Williams, but the SNRHA organization really is the advocacy group that keeps their eye on the ball in terms of funding and all things related to HUD. And we have a direct channel with them, and they keep us abreast of any goings on. Is that?
Yeah, so our agency is part of SNRHA and also FADA, Public Housing Association Directors Association. And then we should have also joined CLAPA, Council of Large Public Housing Agencies. But those 3 entities are our free sort of lobbying arm that we pay a membership to, and they keep us daily up to date with briefings that I receive.
Thank you. All right. So are there any additional comments from the board regarding this agenda item, this new position? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair, no, yes, I just want to move for approval of agenda item number 7.
Okay.
If you're ready to entertain the motion, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you. That was easy, huh, Ms. Fleming? That was easy. All right, item number 8, approval of training and organizational performance analyst which is a newly created position. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairperson, the Human Resources is a restructuring department to emphasize employee training and development and organizational performance. The training and organizational performance analyst will replace the current Human Resources Generalist classification that is listed in SNRHA's current salary plan. The proposed range for this classification is range 133. Action requested the review and approval of training and organizational performance analysis position. And if the board has any specific questions about this, our new HR manager, who's very proud and excited and wants this position to be approved, will answer the questions because she's been talking about it since she got here.
Well, we appreciate Ms. Fleming's excitement. That's awesome. So are there any questions regarding this newly created position, the value that it will bring to the HR department? Mr. Shaw?
No, I have none.
Okay.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Anyone on the phone or internet have any comments or questions for Ms. Fleming regarding this? Okay. Will you come forward, Ms. Fleming? Vice Chair Diaz has a question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just think it's important to note on the record how she sees this new position adding value to the organization. I think it's important to document what, and then we can inspect what we don't know, what we should receive. So,
thank you very much, Commissioners. It's my pleasure to talk with you this afternoon. My name is June Fleming. I'm the new Human Resources Manager here at SNRHA. First of all, when I first got here, one of the things I was looking at as I was doing a survey or a climate survey was what do I actually need in human resources in order to perform the work. And one of the things that Mr. Williams wanted us to do was to actually look at organization climate, to look at culture. And one of the things I reviewed as far as what my structure in human resources was, we didn't have also training. One of the things that I looked at was there wasn't sufficient training that was involved as far as teaching our employees what to do, how to do it, when to do it, looking at people trained on organization policies and procedures, looking at sexual harassment and discrimination training, look at fair housing training, looking at any other core trainings that the employees needed. We also were looking at certain things that we wanted to do was do organization climate surveys, Myers-Briggs. We wanted to do a leadership management academy for all our staff. What I'm looking at doing is making sure that the employees here are also recognized and that they're actually getting the opportunity to be developed as supervisors, as the managers, and to also make sure that we're actually implementing some form of succession planning and making sure that our people are ready. We in Human Resources, what we want to do is when they come in, we want to give them a rip-roaring, banging new employee orientation from start to finish. And then through the time that they're in a career cycle or life cycle within this company, we want to go ahead and give them the appropriate trainings, the education, and other things that will make them successful in their future roles with the company, and that we do hope that in the end result that they want to stay here and they're motivated employees of this company, and they're actually able to move us forward. That, I feel, emphatically is why I want that position.
Good answer.
Well documented. Yeah. I am all about professional development as a former educator. I think that it's super important that we continue to have opportunities to develop each other, because just because we get the position doesn't mean we know all the ins and outs, and there's cultural sensitivities and there's different just customer service skills that we have to maybe hit in different ways in different departments. So I'm very appreciative of your passion and your advocacy for this role, because I do see its importance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. She couldn't tell because I'm wearing a mask, but I was smiling at her the whole time because I really appreciate her vision and her enthusiasm. You know, I was thinking about it earlier this week. Our organization, we're not just a bunch of buildings scattered throughout the community. We're people helping people that have tremendous need. And the better the workforce we have, the happier and more capable and committed workforce we have to our mission, the better work we're going to be able to do throughout our community. So thank you so much, Ms. Fleming. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for item number 8.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Shaw and a second by Vice Chair Diaz. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Thank you so much. We'll go to Section 5, Business Items. Item number 9, receive update from Executive Director on CARES Act funding. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we go to item number 9, I wanted to give the board an update on an IRS audit. Hold on one second. So we will have an update on the IRS audit that we received. We're going to actually have someone from the IRS call in and give the board an update. I just thought it was appropriate during my business item sections to give a board an update on what the IRS discovered and tell the board how we're going to address that since it just came up. So we're going to move to receiving an update from the Executive Director on the CARES Act funding, and I'm going to let our Chief Administrative Officer break down our CARES Act projection as soon as he's finished texting the IRS guy to get on the phone.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Fred Herron, Chief Administrative Officer. In front of, I think I can have a copy too, since you got it.
Tommy's going to bring it up on the screen, I believe. I think he is.
As Mr. Williams stated, we actually received approximately $3.8 million additional dollars related to COVID-19 to assist us in preparing, responding, and preventing COVID-19 to maintain our normal operation. In front of you and on the screen as well, we have we received approximately about $1.8 million from our public housing program, of which $389,000 would be transferred to the central office cost center to cover some of the management fees. Section 8 program received funding of about $1.9 million as well, and our mainstream 5 received about $17,000. Of that funding, we've had budgeted about $761,000 for salaries and benefits, mostly for overtime to deal with getting units leased up and dealing with our Section 8 program and getting attendance leased up. The $398,000 for management fees and monies that we're allowed to charge. And I think we brought that to the board about a month ago, increasing the management fees to help pay for some of the central office costs and as relates to the COVID-19 funding. Consulting, we budgeted about $75,000 for consulting fees, and $50,000 of that would come out of the central office cost center related to the class and comm studies that we're presenting to the board next month when we receive the RFP. And then another $25,000 would go toward procurement-related items. Miscellaneous expense, the majority of that $303,000 total consists of upgrading our Yardi system. We're going to basically be upgrading our online portal and also buying some additional computer equipment. Tenant service salaries goes for our FSS and our public housing and Section 8 tenant services for overtime as well. The $65,000 for maintenance costs, that would be set aside for maintenance staff to perform overtime services after work. Maintenance material, we budgeted about $525,000 over the 4 funding sources. About 91% of that is for the personal protection equipment and some janitorial supplies. Maintenance contract, we set aside $96,000 for that as well, and those will help create some social distancing among the various different sites. We also budgeted about $349,000 for protective services to add additional security at all of our properties as well, and our 2 RAB properties, the Bertha and Bennett Plaza, and our Section 8 building and admin buildings. And the other non-routine expenditures, we have budgeted $384,000, and of that, we have set aside about $100,000 for security cameras at AMP 402 and 408. We also looking to purchase a 48-passenger bus to transport our residents. And for our Section 8 program, we installing a software we could have a paperless environment for our Section 8 program, as well as identify 2 kiosks to go inside the lobby areas. As Mr. Williams stated, even after the 3.8 that we'll be receiving, we have about $1.1 million, $1.2 million that we haven't dispersed or identified funding sources for. And I know Ms. Williams is working on a couple other things as well. So, if any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Herron. Are there any questions regarding this CARES Act dollars allocation report? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make an addition to Mr. Herron's report. So last night, over the past couple of weeks, been in discussions with the Nevada Youth Network, and the Housing Authority, under its eligibility of use of the CARES funds, will be partnering with Matt Kelly and the Nevada Youth Network to sponsor up to a 6-week summer program for the children in our public housing properties in Marble Manor and Sherman Garden Annex, Sherman Garden, and Villa Capri. So we will be looking for that budget from Nevada Youth Network next week and be moving forward with that program. In addition, we had 3 students that graduated from high school that have identified the colleges that they will be going to, and one is still considering. And we will be using some non-federal resources to support those 3 students as they transition into college. And I'll wait to surprise them with what that will be.
Maybe we could surprise them together here.
Yeah, sure.
At a future meeting. That would be super cool. When will that youth program start, the 6-week program? What's the target start date?
Well, Mr. Flores is getting in at the restart next week.
Okay.
So he works pretty quick. So I think in 2 weeks, once we receive a budget from him.
Okay. Vice Chair Diaz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to know, how long will the maintenance materials last us? We know that COVID is something that's not going to go away per se over the next month or 2, and we really have to be proactive and plan ahead. And we keep hearing about a potential second wave hitting and things intensifying. And so just want to know that we've invested enough money securing the disinfectants, the PPE for the workers, et cetera. So I just kind of want to get a sense of how much have we procured, how long will it last us through, do we have enough?
So as of to date, we have enough to last for a couple of 3 months. But what we're doing is we have a recurring procurement process, purchasing that equipment. It was a strategy developed by Fred and Ted and Johnny that, during the initial rush of this equipment, the prices were high. And so we just doing a recurring purchase. And our goal is to have supplies that last us until next summer. So that's our goal here at our agency. Fred looks like he wants to say something.
Yes, and I also failed to mention, these funds that we receive from the CARES Act has to be expended by December 31st. So any additional funds that we have left over that we hadn't procured, we'll be looking to purchase some of those PPE equipment to kind of last us for a little further out.
And then just a quick
Mr.
follow-up,
Chair.
Mr. Chair. So have there been any ideas the residents have brought forth that they feel we may need to revamp spaces or do certain things to protect the residents, or the residents being able to feel more comfortable in their different complexes or housing communities? Have any of them been noted to us that we might want to entertain and look into and potentially make the investment to keep everyone safe?
Yes. So over the past few days, I've received calls from residents at Levy Garden, Marble Manor, dealing with our HVAC systems. One is, I think that's just checking with the asset managers to make sure the filters are being changed on time. I actually went to Levy Garden myself and inspected that, and they were. We've also got requests of cleaning the air ducts, which is an overly expensive and rarely done thing. But we also are looking at mostly in those maintenance materials providing personal protective equipment to the residents themselves. We've also had a request from one resident at Marble Manor of putting ceiling fans for better ventilation, and that would be nice. We will look at that cost. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that HUD will look at that favorably, as we've already approved the process and moved forward with repurposing that particular site. But yes, we have received concerns, and I'm actually going to our Rose Gardens apartments this Saturday with a resident. Even though we don't manage those properties, we have received concerns from our third-party management companies, and so I want to personally go there and look myself to let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just thinking of, plexiglass, if there's
Oh,
communal
those.
laundry rooms. I was just kind of thinking if there's any retrofits that we need to, especially in our senior housing divisions, if there's any kinds of steps we're taking proactively to make sure that those areas are safer for everyone.
No, we're actually, not that I know of. Oh, they have, so, okay. So they have identified, so I guess that was, but yes, we have identified that. But there's some residents here from Jamestown I always like to hear, but maybe they have some ideas that we haven't thought of. So as citizen participation, I'm always interested in hear what y'all got to say.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Williams?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Hello.
Commissioner Weekly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just first say I appreciate the breakdown that Mr. Herron gave. I think it was done very responsibly in reference to making sure that we tried to cover as many bases as we could. But I wanted to ask Mr. Herron a question in reference to IT. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Herron, if that's okay, please.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Herron, one of the things, I think it was about maybe 2 years ago, I believe, the city of Las Vegas partnered with Cox Communications, and they were starting, I remember, I believe that Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority had gotten involved and engaged in that as well, to do some IT services, and I believe that they had some equipment that they had given out to many of the residents. One of the things that I saw happen, just looking at some of the data from the Clark County School District, as COVID-19 kicked in, many of the schools passed out tablets for many of these kids to be able to continue the remainder of the school year. Well, the problem was a lot of the kids didn't do well academically, particularly in those schools that Mr. Williams spoke about, Matt Kelly, Wendell P. Williams, Booker, and Kit Carson and Fitzgerald, and some of those schools. Is it possible that I know you have to expend these funds by the end of the year, that there was some kind of way maybe we can maybe allocate a little bit more to IT services to figure out what it is that we can do to maybe make it a little bit better as far as accessibility for IT services, because Chairman Black, you know this better than I do. We've not even hit our second wave of COVID-19, and people are walking around acting as if the virus has really gone away, or that this was some kind of big governmental myth, if you will. I'm just concerned that if there is another wave, like for example, we just saw, what was it, Mr. Chairman, 347 cases in one day?
Yeah, that was the largest jump in the last 6 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, so my question, Mr. Herron, I know I'm saying a loaded question here, but is there any kind of way maybe we could look into maybe having some more IT funds readily available to help some of our tenants with their kids as it relates to having better access in IT services?
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Weekly must have read my mind, because we already have a presentation to actually answer that exact question. Mr. Weekly, Tracy Torrance is actually going to answer your question with a presentation that we have prepared.
Well, I was just trying to ask the Jerry Maguire of the Housing Authority, because I know he know where all the dollars are, but I respect Ms. Torrance, so that's fine.
No, we got the funding. Tracy getting ready to tell you how we spending it.
There's even a pie chart to go with it.
We was prepared.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tracy Torrance, Acting Supportive Services Manager. So with the CARES Act funding, with the assistance of IT, Fernando and Tommy, we identified 498 public housing households with children who were going into grades 1 through 12. So what we did was we planned boots on the ground to go door knocking, and we had the assistance of some FSS coordinators, some of the executive administration, and we hit every single public housing that had families: Hampton Court, Ernie Cragen, Simmons Manor, Hullum and Jones, Marble Manor Annex, Sherman Gardens Annex, and we went with tablets preloaded with a survey of those identified homes. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So we conducted a total of 403 surveys successfully that were submitted from those properties. The other ones were possibly individuals who were not home. We had a couple of hiccups with the app that we were doing the surveys with for day one. However, we still have phone calls trickling in. What we did was we went and asked these families and explained to them we understand that many of the children were sent home with some of them Google Chromebooks, not knowing if the parents had access to Wi-Fi. We know that Clark County School District took and put Wi-Fi on some buses and went and sent them into neighborhoods. And again, like you expressed, we don't know if this COVID-19 is coming back in the fall. It's predicted that it is, so there's a chance that our kids very well may be sent home one more time. So the Housing Authority with these funds secured 250 mobile hotspots that will connect up to 10 devices within the household. Along with that, we're going to pay for that through the end of December. So out of the households that were able to speak with the head of household, 89% have agreed to participate. And we still have calls trickling in. So we had 223 responses with 200, 89.7%. agreeing to participate in the program. So next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have identified locations on those specific properties, and Tommy and I don't know who else will be there giving the hotspots out. Along with, I found a paper, a flyer that I'm passing out as well in English and in Spanish, called Tech Balance. Those will go to the households as well to give the parents a little more information in regards to how to navigate through the internet and identifying screen time, age-appropriate tips, digital citizenship, give them movie and TV reviews so that they're aware of, apps for learning, setting limits, and online safety. That concludes my report.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Torrance. Do you have any questions, commissioners that are on the call-in or here at the chambers for Ms. Torrance? This is awesome. Really exciting to, yes. You asked all the good questions, Olivia,
lady.
So we're good.
I wanted to know, you mentioned 250 mobile hotspots. So what's that reach? Because you said about 10 people.
So the mobile hotspots will go into each family's household, and they can connect up to 10 devices to each hotspot.
I wanted to understand how I was understanding it.
Yes.
So it's each home receives one of these hotspots.
Each of the homes that want to participate will receive a hotspot. Not only can they connect to the internet with the Google Chromebooks or whatever type of learning devices that they have, they can also stream movies and game.
Okay.
More importantly, the kids can do their work.
So you have about 200 households who have already agreed, and you have about 50 more that can.
We have people that are still trickling in. I'm getting emails for those households that, where families weren't there. We left flyers indicating if they were interested to please call. The call center is picking up those calls and forwarding them directly to me. And as I get them, I call back and do the survey and submit, and that increases our numbers.
Okay. And then I don't know, there might be an alternative to work with a provider like Cox. I know that they work with families who are low income, and they offer a very cost-effective way for them to be connected. So I just want us to be thinking, if we reach our max, we can't afford anybody else a hotspot, for us to at least reach out to Cox and kind of figure out what their price ranges are, if they have programs that kind of waives the entire fee maybe right now during COVID, because I know that different companies are doing different things for our community. So maybe we also have that in mind of, oh, we don't have the hotspot for you, but I've told that through Cox you can pursue this option at maybe very minimal cost or no cost, but I think it's important that we have that for them to distribute that.
Yeah, I'm aware of the Connect to Compete program. And I need to look in to see if there have been any changes or updates at this time. At one time, we were promoting that program, and they have quite a few restrictions, so a lot of our families didn't qualify because they were either current Cox customers or they owed Cox money. So I'm looking into a variety of programs that can assist.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
And just to add, so far, just with the numbers that we have, we're up to an estimated $100,000 investment in this program for our community. And as we get more, I'm sure those numbers will increase. And we're also, I know Tracy's been pretty busy. We just need to get some clarification from the Clark County School District whether those Chromebooks will be permanently giving to these students, or whether are they loaners. And we would like to know that as soon as possible if the board can help out with that. 'Cause I just need some help getting in contact with the superintendent. I'll just leave it like that. So we can determine whether we need to purchase our own residents' Chromebooks or not.
We'll figure it out.
That's all. I'll just leave it like that. Thanks.
All right, does that conclude your report on number 9, Mr. Williams?
Let's see, number 9. Yes, that does on number 9.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to item number 10 on the agenda, identify emerging issues to be addressed by the board and executive director at future meetings, receive updates on activities of the executive director, and direct the executive director accordingly.
Yes, so I would like just
Is there a report from the IRS? Is that what we need to?
You ready?
Okay, thank you.
Or you want to tee it up?
All right, so we'll pause beginning item number 10 and go to the report from the IRS person.
Fred Herron, Director of Finance. Each year, we're required to submit our 1099s to vendors that we pay, our Section 8 landlord, as well as our accounts payable vendors at year-end, reporting how much money they receive. Generally, about 8 months after that, we receive a letter from the IRS letting us know whether or not the numbers that the identification number that we reported to the IRS linked in with what the recipients reported. And in most cases, we've always had some discrepancies over the years. This year, we received a friendly visit from our IRS analyst, and he reviewed some of the documents.
A friendly visit?
It was pretty. Well, it wasn't friendly when it started, but I think when it ended, I think it ended as well as we can expect it. We were assessed a penalty of about $28,000, of $17,000 in fines, and about $10,000 in abatement. And I do have Mr. Carl Chavez on the line as well. We'd like to go over the report and his findings. Carl, are you there? Carl?
The IRS is always there.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
There he is. Hey, Carl.
Yes, we hear you, Carl.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chairman, board members, Mr. Williams, Mr. Herron, and all the staff. I was invited to this board meeting to go over